praise to Yahweh, in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, or GMS for short. This is where I have learned this truth, and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Okay, so this video is going to be a reading of First Maccabees, the first chapter. All right, before doing so, in the Good News translation. All right, so before doing so, I want you to keep a couple things in mind. One is here in Ecclesiastes. Hold on a second. Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and verse 9. I'm going to read this from the Good News translation. And it reads, "What has happened before will happen again. What has been done before will be done again. There is nothing new in the whole world." Right? And also keep in mind, let me see. I'm going to read this out of the Good News also. Romans. Hold on, let me see if I can find this verse. 9. Let's see. Romans 14 and... All right, hold on a second. Fifteen 4. All right, Romans 15 and 4 in the Good News. It reads, "Everything written in the scriptures was written to teach us, in order that we might have hope through the patience and encouragement which the scriptures give us." Okay? So, also know that everything in the scriptures are faithful and true. Okay? This is why it tells you in 2 Timothy 2 and 15 to study. Study to show thyself approved. And also in Revelation it tells you, "Blessed is he that readeth." All right? So while we're reading this Maccabees, first chapter, we're going to be reading about real people, as we do in the rest of the scriptures. Okay? We're going to be reading about certain situations that Israelites were put in. Okay? We're going to be reading about certain wicked Israelites. All right? So everything is rolling back and repeating itself. Okay? So just keep those things in mind while we read these, while we read this book. All right? This book and chapter. Again, this is First Maccabees, chapter 1, in the Good News translation. Let's see. Okay? All right. So this is First Maccabees chapter 1. All right. It reads, "This history begins when Alexander the Great, the son of Philip of Macedonia, marched from Macedonia and attacked Darius, king of Persia and Media." Okay, so right here, let's go and search up Alexander the Great. All right, hold on. Just to do a quick check. Now, we're just going to touch on these things, but you can see that there is history to be learned here. All right, because first of all, it tells you we're going to be speaking about the time of Alexander the Great, who is the son of Philip of Macedonia. So let's just go see really quick if that is accurate. Alexander the Great. All right, this is just a quick search. All right, there's a lot of history in these scriptures. I mean, even I need to learn. There's history for me to learn. All right, that's important for me to know. All right, but you can see, we're going to see how we begin to study these things. All right, and the things that we speak of here are true. All right, real life. This thing is not a fairy tale. All right. So let's look. Alexander the Great. All right, it says Alexander the Third of Macedon. All right, it says most commonly known as Alexander the Great, was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedon. It says he succeeded his father Philip II to the throne in 336 BC at the age of 20, and spent most of his ruling years conducting a lengthy military campaign throughout Western Asia, Central Asia, parts of South Asia, and Egypt. By the age of 30, he had created one of the largest empires in history, stretching from Greece to northwestern India. He was undefeated in battle and is widely considered to be one of history's greatest and most successful military commanders. All right, this man was busy. All right, but again, he pointed out in the scriptures, this history begins, the history that the Maccabees, the books go into. This history begins when Alexander the Great, son of Philip of Macedonia, okay, which coincides with what we learn here about Alexander the Great. Okay, so this is real history. Okay, it's undeniable. All right, the Lord has to bestow an eye salve on you. All right, he has to will you to be able to understand a lot of things that are talked about. But some things you can just go back here and look and see that it's speaking about real things. All right, okay, but he did leave parables, dark sayings. All right, he left those in this book too. Okay, but all of these things agree together when spoken in their own language or when read in their own language. All right, it's not like you read it in English and everybody can have an interpretation and that's the way the Lord meant it. No, there's one clear path through these scriptures, man. All right, so let me go into the scriptures to read. Again, it says, this history begins when Alexander the Great, son of Philip of Macedonia, marched from Macedonia and attacked Darius, king of Persia and Media. Alexander enlarged the Greek Empire by defeating Darius and seizing his throne. All right. Now, it didn't say that Alexander did not kill Darius. Right. He didn't have a chance to face him and kill him in battle. All right. It is said that one of his own killed him. speaking of Darius. All right, but in his death, all right, Alexander claimed all these lands. Okay. All right, again, by defeating Darius and seizing his throne. It says he fought many battles, captured fortified cities, and put the kings of the region to death. As he advanced to the ends of the earth, he plundered many nations. Now, the ends of the earth in this context is the known earth. Okay, Alexander the Greek didn't come over here and fight. All right, this is talking about the known earth at that time. Okay, it says, and when he had conquered the world, he became proud and arrogant. Again, he didn't conquer the entire world, just that known world, the known lands. Okay, it says, by building up a strong army, he dominated the whole nations and their rulers and forced everyone to pay him taxes. It says, when Alexander had been emperor for 12 years, he fell ill and realized that he was about to die. All right, how long did his reign last? It says reign from 336 to 323 BC. Okay, so within the 12th year, he realized he was about to die. Okay, all right. It says he called together his generals, noble men who had been brought up with him since his early childhood. All right, that would be Ptolemy, Lacedaemon, Cassander, and Solution. All right, Solution. All right, it says, and he divided his empire, giving a part to each of them. After his death, the generals took control, and each had himself crowned king of his own territory. The descendants of these kings ruled for many generations and brought a great deal of misery on the world. They started Hellenizing a lot of people, okay? Putting their ways or making people conform to their ways. Okay, so now in this next section of the first book of Maccabees, the heading reads Antiochus Epiphanes and the renegade Jews. So now let's which is Antiochus Epiphanes and the renegade let me look up Antiochus really quick. Hold on. Okay, I got him pulled up now. So here we go. It says the wicked ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus the third of Syria. So let's look. Let's look at this. It says Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, 215 BC to 164 BC. It says was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164. He was the son of King Antiochus III, the Great. Okay? And again, this is just touching on the beginning of studies. All right, there's a lot of history in here. All right, let's start again at the top. This is verse 10 of 1 Maccabees, the first chapter. It says, the wicked ruler, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus III of Syria, was a descendant of one of Alexander's generals. Antiochus Epiphanes had been a hostage in Rome before he became king of Syria in the year 137. Okay, now let me look at this because there's an asterisk next to 137. It says the year 137. It says the dates in this book are counted from the beginning of the Syrian kingdom in 312. The year 137 corresponds to 175 BC. So it's saying that he became king of Syria in 175 BC. So let's take a look. It also said he was a hostage. All right. So let's look. Antiochus Epiphanes was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled Seleucid Empire from 175, which that's what it corresponded to, at 175 BC, until his death in 164. So what he ruled about what? Was that 9 years? Or roundabout? Okay, now let's look for, what are we looking for? Okay, we got the 175. All right, but it mentioned him being a hostage. All right, here we can read. Here we go. It mentions it right here. But before we get there, let me read the top of this again. Antiochus Epiphanes was a Greek Hellenistic king who ruled the Seleucid Empire from 175 BC until his death in 164 BC. He was a son of King Antiochus III the Great, originally named Mithridates, or possibly its earlier alternative name of Mithridates. Right? It says he assumed the name Antiochus either after the death of his elder brother Antiochus or when he ascended the throne. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include his near conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt, because another general of Alexander the Great, Ptolemy, all right, he went over and got Egypt. Okay, it says okay, let me start that over. Notable events during Antiochus' reign include his near conquest of Ptolemaic Egypt, his persecution of the Jews of Judea, right, which that is what Jew is short for, the tribe of Judah. Okay, anyway, so his persecution of the Jews of Judea and Samaria, and the rebellion of the Jewish Maccabees. All right, take these words with a grain of heart. The Jewish words, or the word Jewish, and all these things. Anyway, there's a point down here. Antiochus, accession to the throne was controversial, and he was seen as a usurper by some. After the death of his brother Seleucus the fourth Philopator in 175 BC, the true heir should have been Seleucus' son Demetrius. However, Demetrius was very young and a hostage in Rome at the time, and Antiochus seized the opportunity to declare himself king instead, successfully rallying enough of the Greek ruling class in Antioch to support his claim. This helped set a destabilizing trend in the Seleucid Empire in subsequent generations. All right, hold on, because I didn't even talk about him being a captive. I talked about somebody else. So hold on, let me click on Antiochus III the Great. Let's see. clicked on his father, all right, just to see if it mentions his son being captive. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. Hold on a second. All right, I asked, was Antiochus Epiphanes a prisoner of war? All right, it says, yes, Antiochus IV Epiphanes was held hostage in Rome from 189 to 175 BC. It says Antiochus was the third son of Antiochus III the Great and was taken hostage after his father's defeat by the Romans. Antiochus was held in Rome until his brother, King Seleucus the Fourth, exchanged him for Demetrius, the son of Seleucus. Okay. While in Rome, Antiochus learned about Roman institutions and policies. It says release. It says Antiochus was released when Philopator's young son replaced him as Rome's hostage. All right. After his release, Antiochus returned to his homeland and spent some time in Athens. Antiochus Epiphanes was a Seleucid king who ruled the Hellenistic Syrian kingdom from 175 to 164. He is known for desecrating the temple in Jerusalem in 168 BC. Okay. So, go ahead and keep reading. Let me start all over at the top. This is again First Maccabees chapter 1 and now verse 10. It says, the wicked ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, son of King Antiochus III of Syria, was a descendant of one of Alexander's generals. Antiochus Epiphanes had been held hostage in Rome before he became king of Syria in the year 137. At that time, there appeared in the land of Israel a group of traitorous Jews who had no regard for the law and who had a bad influence on many of our people. They said, let's come to terms with the Gentiles, for our refusal to associate with them has brought us nothing but trouble. Right? They wanted to join to these people. And that's always been the problem with Israel. Right? Learning these other people's ways and walking in them. All right. Uh, it says this proposal appealed to many people, and some of them became so enthusiastic about it that they went to the king and received from him permission to follow Gentile customs. Okay. It says they built in Jerusalem a stadium like those in the Greek cities. They had surgery performed to hide their circumcision, abandoned the Holy Covenant, started associating with Gentiles, and did all sorts of evil things. Now, you have to know that some things in here, all right, are are missed when it comes to the truth. All right, so it said that they had surgeries to hide their circumcision. All right, but really what happened is, let me read it out of King James first, and then we'll get to the bottom of that. All right, so what verse was that? Verse 15. So here's the King James version of the Apocrypha. First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 15. I'm gonna start at 14 though. It says I'll start at 13. It says, then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon, and don't let this get you mixed up. All right, some heathen were actual heathen, but sometimes the Israelites were referred to as heathen depending on how they were acting. All right, being outside of the ways of the Lord. Also Gentiles. All right, there were Gentiles that were other nations, yes, but there were also Gentiles that were Israelites, depending on the context of the verse. All right, if it's talking about coming back into, or if it's talking about going to the Gentiles to have this truth uh, be taught to them, or if it talks about Gentiles being now allowed back into uh, reconciliation with the Lord, of course, it's talking about the ones that are Israelites. Okay. Let me see, where are we at? I'll start again. First Maccabees 1 and 13. In the King James, it says, then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. And in turn, they became heathen. Okay. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised. Okay. So if you are following the laws, if you're doing the thing that you are supposed to do, all right, that is spiritually being circumcised. All right, there's also a physical being circumcised. All right, but there is a spiritual. Okay, you can become uncircumcised in the spirit if you start walking after these other ways. All right, so that's what this meant. This translation kind of makes it seem like they got surgeries, and that's exactly what it meant. All right, it meant that they started walking outside of our ways. Okay, they started walking in the ways of the heathen, or walking in the ways of the Gentiles, however you want to say that. All right. So now let's go ahead and go to verse 16. The heading reads, Antiochus attacks Egypt. All right, it says, when Antiochus had firmly established himself as king, he decided to conquer Egypt and rule that country as well as Syria. He invaded Egypt with a large fleet of ships and a powerful army, including chariots, elephants, and cavalry. When the attack came, King Ptolemy of Egypt turned and fled, and many of his soldiers were killed. Antiochus was able to capture the fortified cities of Egypt and plunder the whole land. Okay? Uh, so I'm going to stop right there. We're going to come back with the rest of this chapter. Okay, that was verse 1 through 19. Okay, and there's about 64 verses in this book. But since I paused a lot, we're going to go ahead and stop this right there and pick up again in the next video. All right, Lord willing. Okay, or in the next upcoming videos. All right, so yeah, this is true history. All right, all these things in these books are true history. Okay, they are faithful and true. They are the things that are written aforetime for our learning. Okay, but we'll come back and we'll touch on how Antiochus, all right, persecuted Israelites. All right, so with that, call halal Yahweh, Bahoshem Yahweh Shai, Bahoshem Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, or GMS for short. This is where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I'm of that number, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.